lost to gun violence and families who have been impacted. So let's continue to hold them in our minds and our hearts, because that's why we do this work. It is the reason why we're here today. All right, so let's dive into the blueprint.
So you're going to see a bunch of writing on these screens. We will do our best to project out what is on the screen, because we recognize that some of these names are not as visible to some of the people in RAC. But I'll get started. The QR code here is a QR code for the full strategy. So that QR code is also at your table. If you want to open that up and follow along, we'll be referencing it throughout the presentation today. So as many of you know, and some of you are new to, our conversations around the Blueprint for Peace, but the Blueprint for Peace is a community-driven long-term strategy to end gun violence in Kalamazoo. It is grounded in the public health framework, and we do this work using a collective impact model. So with our collective impact model, we are talking about residents, organizations, community organizations, grassroots organizations, public offices, municipalities, all coming together to really think about how we solve the issues related to gun violence in Kalamazoo. The Blueprint for Peace is really about prevention, intervention, and healing. We know that many models of gun violence intervention has really focused in on treating the symptoms of gun violence at the intervention, but our model uses all three approaches. So throughout our conversation today, you will hear us not only talk about the work that our CDI interventionists are doing on the ground, but we're looking to really address the root causes. So we'll be looking at the entire upstream and downstream factors when we're talking about how we are moved towards ending gun violence in Kalamazoo. It should be noted that as you look at the blueprint, the full strategy, there are many, many, many names at the beginning of that book. And that is because this work started right here in Kalamazoo with community members who cared about lives of the people in this community, who cared about the safety of all residents in this community. That's how this work started. It wasn't necessarily because somebody said, oh, we have a big old grant and we would have some money and we need to spend money on this. This work started with people who had already been loud and advocating for changes in our community so that community is safe. So all of those folks are acknowledged in the blueprint. Many of those folks are here. And I just want to send another thank you to all of those people who stepped up right at the beginning to say, hey, we need a strategy, and to move the city and the county to declare gun violence a public health crisis in Kalamazoo. So your work is not unnoticed, and we are here today because of your work. So the Blueprint for Peace, as you're looking at the strategy, it is arranged in 6 goal areas. And these 6 goal areas are not exclusive, they're all interconnected. And so what we had, and we got started, and what we gathered from community were ideas and information and lived experiences. And they say, here, these are the things that we need to see change in community in order for us to feel safe and to thrive. And so all of the goals are organized based on just different categories that we were able to walk through to address gun violence in an interconnected way. So our first goal is around stopping the shooting, stopping the violence. And that is because immediate safety matters. There's a lot of upstream factors that we need to attend to, but we can't focus our attention on those things when people are still dying, right? So in 2024 and 25, we really focused in on the first goal, which is stop the shootings, stop the violence. Secondly, our next goal is to increase access to healing and community restoration, because trauma, when it's unaddressed, it does what? It what? Yeah. I forgot to tell y'all, we talk to each other, so I can get in teacher mode, but right, it perpetuates harm, right? So when it's unaddressed, it perpetuates harm. And then third, we want to support children, youth, and families, and that is to strengthen the protective factors early on. We want to really address those, and the third goal is around that. Fourth, economic stability. We want to cultivate economic stability because safety and economic opportunity is inseparable. I'm going to say it again. Safety and economic opportunity is what? Yeah, all right, we got it. And then fifth, we foster safe and strong neighborhoods. So investing in local capacity in our community infrastructure. And then finally, our goal 6 is we strengthen capacity and coordination because none of this work happens in silo. No one organization could really address these issues alone. So we are really focusing in also on a coordination of our cross-sector partners to make sure that this work can be aligned and moving at the pace we needed to move to get towards system change. All right, so I'm gonna talk a little bit, and I'm trying not to talk too long because I know y'all want to hear the beat, right? But I just want to emphasize that what we're talking about today is a model for systems change. So the blueprint is really a systems change model. And so what we have done and what the folks who got started with the blueprint have done is we've looked at like really how do we come together, not just only to address gun violence, but also to think about if we raise any issue to the top as the most critical issue in council, we want to resolve it and solve it this way. So as you're taking this in, this is not just about a model for ending gun violence, but it's a model for addressing any community issue in the very same way. And so with the Blueprint for Peace, we have some underlying beliefs in how we operate as a coordinating council and as a backbone for the Blueprint for Peace. So fundamentally, our belief is that gun violence is rooted in structural inequity, not an individual failure. I repeat things that are in court. So gun violence is rooted in structural inequity and not individual failure. That is really about, and I say those things because many of us have, if I ask this room now, why is gun violence happening? We'd have as many people in here with different perspectives on the causes of gun violence, right? So our work we had to do that work also in coming to a shared understanding of the root causes of gun violence. And so I offer that to you also to challenge any narrative that you're holding about who did it, who's to blame, and who's at fault. So as we talk about this in the blueprint, this is a fundamental belief that we hold. How we promote together as the stewards of the blueprint, we, through backbone leadership and our shared measurement, equity-driven governance, we align our cross-sector partners. And so many of you have been in the room, the goal working groups, as we've engaged in this work together, but we really truly believe that leadership and governance of this work belongs to everybody who's participated. And so while we are the backbone and the stewards of this work, we are really always looking for that leadership to be coming out of those spaces, for ownership to be held, and also responsibility to be held by everyone in the room. And so when it comes to our strategy, we think about our strategy in 3 words: we align, we engage, and we implement. So we coordinate our cross-sector strategy. We also engage our residents and individuals with lived experience and engage folks in that work because we also have a significant amount of healing to do, right? And so I know many of us represent institutions and organizations, and those folks who need to be holding us responsible are our residents and our community members, the folks who contributed at the very beginning of the blueprint when they said, this is what I need to feel safe in my community. And sometimes when we move forward with strategies, they get eliminated from the conversation. So we are, with the blueprint, inviting residents in, and then also understanding that we have hierarchies even within that space, that we have to really be intentional and come together and engage in practices and have opportunities to build that trust. Trust that has been broken down because Gun violence is about systemic inequities. All right, so when we bring all those folks in the room, we have to be able to address that right at the table. And so we're engaging our residents, our organizations, our municipalities in conversations and action to move towards healing all at the same time. And I just used the word action. Where's Lola? You want to say something about action? Yeah. How important is action in our work?
It's so important. We are not meeting just to meet. We are meeting to get things done. And I'm going to use a word that's not a swear word.
Okay. It's really important to know that with the blueprint, we are always moving towards action. And as part of how we heal and how we grow together, we are also very asset rich here. We have people in the room who are ready to implement and take some action. And so ultimately we're moving so that those folks who said, this is what I need to feel safe, they can see those actions happening in our community. All right, so these are, I'm not gonna go in teacher mode, I promised the council I would not, but these are our fundamental frameworks. So many of you have seen the public health approach that's been in community for a while now. But the public health approach really helps us stay focused on upstream preventative factors, root causes, and then to scale our sustainable solution. We had many people in this room who have been a part of TRHT for years. So whoop whoop, shout out to y'all. All right, so fundamental also is our Truth Racial Healing and Transformation model. And so that grounds our work at healing equity and our narrative change work. And then we also work by implementing the 5 conditions of collective impact. So these are all the ways that our coordinating council work and all the structure that's in place to really move the blueprint forward. Did I have her? Okay. So the blueprint leadership is the Michigan Transformation Collective. One of the conditions of collective impact is to have a strong backbone, and MTC is in that role. And then also we have our Blueprint Coordinated Council. So as the backbone steward for the blueprint, our work is really about aligning cross-sector efforts, strengthening our coordination across community, and ensuring a disciplined implementation for this long-term violence prevention strategy. And then we have our amazing coordinating council, that's our multi-sector leadership body, and they help guide the strategic direction of the blueprint. They also help along with us, like it really strengthen our network and work across sectors. They also are our goal working with leagues. And they just really, without the coordinating council, without this body of individuals, we wouldn't be here today. There's no way 4 people at MTC can really do all of this work. So the Blueprint Council are those who help us steward this work. And here they are. Those of you who are here, a part of the Blueprint Council, can you please stand so we can acknowledge you? And I will call on you if you don't stand. The folks who represent the coordinating council, if you look across the different places and roles that they hold, you can see some intentionality, right? When we say we work across sectors, those folks in that room represent education, public safety, are really our nonprofit organizations who are doing direct service. So the makeup of this group has been really, really intentional, and I am just forever thankful for all the hard work that you all do. All right, so let's dig a little deeper. We're going down into a couple more layers, and then I'm gonna be quiet and you're gonna hear from other people. So for 2025, we're gonna really focus in on the work that we've done over the course of this year. So for 2025, we have some strategic priorities. So for those of you who have dug into the blueprint already, you will know that in each of the goal areas, we have a set of actions for each one of those goals. And that set of actions are priorities for the first 3 years of the blueprint. If you flip to the back, there's an appendix, And Dan, how many goals are in the appendix? So many more. So many more goals are in the appendix, right? So what we are holding ourselves accountable for between 24, 25, and 26 are those priorities that you will see when you open up that goal area of the blueprint. And just know that this is a long-term strategy and there are many, many goals in the back, but we are focusing in on those because community said these should be the priority. It's not because we all got together and decided that this is what we wanted to do or this is what we have the money for. Community said we want to prioritize in the first 3 years. So our strategic priorities for 2025, I won't read through all of them, but just know that we have been really focusing on first the institutional integration of the actions and the goals of the blueprint. And that is about embedding violence prevention into long-term systems planning and policy, not just within our organizations, but at the city level, at the county level, and then also within our institutions and organization. Secondly, we wanted to spend some time strengthening the backbone and our shared measurement. So we're doing a lot of work and it's expanding and it's getting what I call busy. And so how else do we know the impact that we're having if we're not setting up a good model for measuring evaluation and not just that learning along the way? So that's another priority. And third, a coordinated implementation. And here, we activated goal working groups this year. So prior to this year, we hadn't been bringing people together to engage them in these processes together. So it's a huge accomplishment this year that we've been able to do so. And so that was a priority. We are also prioritizing the work we're doing with Bronson Hospital to build a hospital-based violence intervention program. And of course, we will always be looking to build the capacity of our CDI ecosystem. Those are the folks that are risking their lives and going in community day in and day out. And we want to make sure that they have the tools that they need and the capacity to continue to show up for our community. And then fourth, to deepen our relationships and community trust. And that includes our racial healing spaces, as well as being transparent about the data we're collecting and the things that are happening in our community. So those are our priorities for 2025. Just real quick, this is another busy slide. So when I mentioned earlier disciplined implementation, I wanted to just show you what we mean by disciplined implementation. And so across all of our working groups, Lola said it, we're not just meeting to meet. The structure that we have implemented it with the blueprint is a model of how we will continue to move towards having some outcomes to report a community, having outcomes that are felt by community. So we start our work with looking first and foremost, we use a strength-based approach. What are the assets we already have in community? Everybody in this room has either heard or said, we're duplicating a lot, right? We know that, you're experiencing that. I come up with ideas all the time and I'm like, dang, somebody did that already, right? And so we wanna make sure that we're really using and leveraging the assets we already have and not duplicating. So we start our work there. And then we have the goals and actions of the blueprint, but we don't have the step-by-step way. We don't have the people in the room always who are necessary for us to really engage and to do that strategy design and development. So that's also the next steps that we engage in when we're in our goal working group. And then we move towards implementation. This can sometimes be tricky if we don't have the resources, but we're always moving in those directions. And then scaling and integration and then finalizing our outcome. So this is moving all the time within the goal working groups. And we started this year off with asset mapping across all of the different groups. We know that not every group is gonna move at the same pace, but these are the marching orders for all of our goal working groups. So if you come into this space, just know that your goal working group is somewhere across this system or this process when you're engaging in health spaces. All right, so let's see what this has looked like and what it looks like within our goal working areas. So I want to invite Assistant Chief Jude.
Morning. We are going to trace the data and explain how we got here. Real. Yes. Like, explain some of the data and behind the work that everyone is doing. And it's really fascinating to see not only year by year comparison, but over the course of many years, the comparisons of the data. And I'm going to have Chief Boycing lead us off with the data, and we're going to talk about some of the gun violence reduction strategies. We have about 12, 13 gun violence reduction strategies that we implement throughout the year with different teams and different groups. And I'm going to hit on just a few of those after we hear from Chief Boyson, and because a couple of those strategies, I need your help with those. Chief?
All right, thank you, David. Good morning, everybody. And again, I'm David Boyson, Chief of Public Safety. Oh, got the clicker here. Okay. I'm not a big IT AD guy, so then figure this out. But I want to touch on the numbers, and I'm going to start with the real positive thing is because the numbers are significantly down last year. Okay, but I want to, before I go to the numbers, I want to say, well, hey, the numbers are down. Hey, we accomplished our mission. We're good. And, think no, because like Dr. Ferguson was saying, there's statistics, but there's names behind those statistics. So if we have one victim, it's too much, right? And so just because the numbers are trending in the right direction doesn't mean that we can relax or we can take our foot off the gas, because we know we have to be on this every day. You have to be on top of this every second, and it's not just alone that's doing this. I don't want people to say these are public safety data, so that I'm saying that we are the ones that made this happen. We're a part of it, but there's a lot of folks sitting in this room that were a big part of this behind the scenes, and Chief Jude is going to talk about some of these strategies, but we can't do it alone. And I think what we have now that's special in Kalamazoo, and he's going to go into it, is we have a really good balance between outreach and enforcement. We don't just do enforcement, because that doesn't work. We try it. We don't just do outreach, because that doesn't work either. We try that too. But when you do those two things together in the balance and coordinate those efforts, the outreach and enforcement, that's what's driving these numbers down. And we can't do it alone. A lot of the departments are on this table. So I really want to shout out to, we got our boss, City Manager Hankin in the back. Couldn't be without him, support by public safety. And also importantly, our city commissioners. We have a lot of city commissioners in the room. I can't do my work without budget, right? And they approved the budget, so I want to thank our city commissioners. And if there's a city commissioner, please stand so we can recognize the support of public safety. Play. Yeah. Thank you for being here, and it shows how much they support the work. They're here, they're out in the community, doing all that stuff. And I also got a shout out to Jeff Gay, our prosecutor attorney. Again, we can't do remote without the help of our prosecutor. And he's going to get into the street outreach team and all that stuff, because again, that's a big part of this too. So, data. Let's see what growing in. Did I? Okay, goal one, stop the violence. There's a book, I don't know if you ever read it, but I highly recommend. It's called Bleeding Out. And that's why we're number one goal is because we have to stop the violence before we do any of that other stuff. And there's a book called Bleeding Out. It was written by Thomas ABT. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you read it. If you are a person in my department that wants to promote the sergeant, you have to read the book, and you will be asked about it, because they're really spot on about really the work that the Transformation Collective and the Food Crimes do. So, yeah, I got it. Okay, so again, I'm rating the stats, and again, for those that can't see it, we're down in all courtroom crimes. There's courtroom violent crimes and property fines. So those are the major offenses, right? Murder, assault, rape, robberies, major property crimes, auto theft. All that is good. And what I think is significant is we're down 14% overall in violent crimes from last year, okay? And we're down 13% in property crimes. Assault with firearms, we're down 22% in 2025 from where we were in 2024. But what's more significant about that is we're not just down from last year in all those categories. We're down from 2 years ago. We're down from 5 years ago. And I think that's significant because a lot of people say, well, of course we're down from a couple years ago because across the country, violent crime was at a record high, right? But we can say in Kalamazoo that we're also down from 10 years ago. So we're down from where we were in 2015. And we all know that the world is a lot different now than it was in 2015, especially when you talked about the member blends out there. So to me, that's really significant. In hindsight, last year, we're down 68% from the previous year. So these are lives that are being saved because of the work that all of you guys, our partners with us, are doing, and that's significant. And we are a busy department, okay? We have a lot going on. That's why I say we can't do it alone, but we, in 2025, we responded to 122,000 calls for service. That's police, fire, and EMS calls. So we're busy. 136,000 if you combine the police and fire stuff in there too, or the fire and EMS calls. So that's a lot of calls. So on average, about 400 calls for service a day, the men and women in public safety are running on. So that's why we need partners to help us, especially with science interventions. Shots fired, that's another thing that's critical, right? Because, okay, maybe we're just getting lucky, people aren't getting hit, but we're still having a lot of shootings. Well, we track everything data-wise, and you can see our shots fired incident year over year continues to trend down. And again, that's why I said this isn't luck. A lot of times the stats go up and down. These are, sustained reductions year over year because the strategy is working, the blueprint's working, our partners are working, which is significant. And that's creating peace in our neighborhoods. Not only is it good for my officers that have to respond to these traumatic events day after day, but it's good for the people that are trying to rid the peace in the neighborhoods, and we're seeing still success. Casings collected, you can see it. Okay, so every time someone shoots, if they leave casing on the ground from a semi-automatic handgun, we recover that casing from the street. That's average, right? In 2023, my officers found over 2,000 casings in the city of Kalamazoo, which is ridiculous when you think about that. Those are the ones we found. I'm sure there's others that we did. Okay? But you see, in 2024, we found 913, and last year we seized 9 grand troops. Still too many, but it's certainly way less than what we were seeing in 2023, and hopefully we'll continue to trend down then as well. But one of the issues that we're dealing with is there's just way too many guns out there. I'll talk about that in a second. If you look at this chart, the orange represents non-fatal shootings, and the blue represents homicides. And you can see, you go back to 2021 in this. So over the last 4 years, we've continued to trend down year over year in both non-fatal shootings and homicides. In 2025, we had 7 homicides, which still too many, but you have to go way back to 2018 to find a year where we had less, and that year we had 6. So again, these are numbers, but there's a name behind every one of those numbers, and hopefully the goal is 0. But certainly in what we're seeing in 2022, in 2023, and 21, that's not acceptable. We cannot sustain that level of violence that is, helped spawn the blueprint for peace and why we're here today. And a big challenge that we're facing, that's why I'm really encouraged with the overall shootings, shots fired going down, homicides going down. But the challenge is there's still far too many firearms out there in the hands of people that should not have them. I'm talking about illegal firearms that are illegally possessed. In 2025, we seized 407 guns off the street. That's just the city of Kalamazoo Public Safety. And when you think about that, that's incredible to me because, I've been here for a long time. And 30 years ago, when he started, if you got a gun off the street as an officer, that was a big deal. Man, you got a gun. That's really cool. High fives in the day. Now, it's more than a gun a day I have to take off the streets. So almost daily, my officers come into contact with individuals that should not legally possess a firearm. And you can see it's pretty, over the last 2 years, that numbers remain pretty consistent with how many guns that we're seeing out there. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Assistant Chief Jude to really go into the strategies about what's driving these numbers down. So thank you very much, everyone.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. That previous slide, you saw how many firearms we took out of Kalamazoo. Those are firearms that are relevant to evidence that will ultimately be destroyed once the case has gone through the judicial system, or if we are found property, we get rid of those. So people always ask, well, how are you guys collecting these firearms? Where are all these firearms coming from, right? And I think there's a lot of emphasis on our young people, that people think that it's the young people that are deriving a lot of the gun violence, but they're also obtaining the firearms. And there's a couple things that happened over the last couple of years, and I want to thank our legislators that are in the room. There's some change in legislation, change in law, and part of that was our safe storage laws, right? I think that's going to significantly impact the amount of firearms that we're seizing and the individuals that carry them that can't have the firearms. And I just want to thank, those lawmakers that passed this, but there's also other people in the room that are educating individuals on this. And Bronson Hospital, our friends at Bronson, are here with material and educating throughout the community, and I think they're doing a phenomenal job. And if for people that do have firearms taken, right, out of cars, and you can see here over the course of 3 years how many firearms were stolen out of vehicles that were left unsecure and open, that's pretty significant. So I just want to thank the individuals that are out there. I know Moms Demand Action is back. They're doing a lot of education, and I think that's part of where you guys also can play. If you're hosting an event or you have an audience, a captured audience, that you can invite the individuals that are providing this information out there to keep these guns out of the hands of young people. Again, I think I said earlier that I think a lot of the young people catch the bad rap of what's going on, and we work with a lot of different organizations across the city that work with the young people. And I know this is one of our city commission priorities over the last couple of years, is to reduce the amount of police contacts that we're having with juveniles, and specifically the offenders. And how do we get there? And we've got a couple different strategies that we have implemented over the last couple of years, and I just wanted to share the data behind or the outcomes of what we're seeing through those different strategies. And you can see over year after year, the violent crime is down 6%, property crime is down 6%, and then total carbon crimes amongst juvenile offenders is down. So I just want to apply all those different organizations that are out there working with young people, because we, as public safety, are minimizing our contacts with those individuals. So where I need your help? I need your help with a couple different gun violence reduction strategies. Remember, I said that we have about 13 different strategies that we'll work through every week, but one of them is our gun amnesty program. And this is a program that Chief Boyson brought to our attention after visiting a conference in Nashville. And we implemented a gun amnesty program. The first year that we started this program, we said if you find a firearm in a young person's bedroom or within the house or hidden somewhere, that you could call us and we would come to your location, we would take that firearm, no questions asked, and then we would have it destroyed. Well, the first year we didn't get very much participation, and can you guess why? Because there has to be a black and white responding to your house, park in front of your house, and then get that firearm, right? And I think we only had one. Well, this program here, we worked collectively with churches that are embedded in the neighborhoods, and we have several churches that are highlighted. If you were to Google Kalamazoo Gun Amnesty, you'll go to our webpage, and all of the churches will be listed on there. And so our last firearm that was turned in was actually yesterday, and it was an individual from Grand Rapids who brought the gun down to Kalamazoo and got a hold of one of our local churches, because they don't have a gun amnesty program in Grand Rapids. So they brought it down to us. And so this is very significant. So again, you just have to contact the number that's on the webpage for one of the local pastors. They get the firearm. We provided locks and safes at each one of the churches. And once that gun is secure and the individual leaves, that pastor will then call public safety. We respond to get the firearm. No questions asked on where it came from. And then we properly dispose of that firearm. Now, these are some of the firearms that we collected last year, and it was far past the number of firearms that I thought we were actually going to get. But I figured if we got one gun off the street, it was worth it. Or we actually were able to get more than one gun a month. We had 14 total last year. And this year already, as of yesterday, we're at 6. So as the word spreads, I think we're going to see that increase throughout the year. And this is where I need your help. And so when you're back talking to your organizations or the people that you influence, you can tell them about this program and how we're able to get guns out of the hands of individuals that can't have. Use a couple more slides. Last year, we started the Victim Advocates Program, and this was something that was very important for public safety, because we had not had a victim advocate in the past. We always relied on the prosecutor's office, but if you can imagine how many cases they have come through their office, they are very, very, very busy. And so with our shooting victims, we have two victim advocates, Latanya Turner and Miss Caressa Bryant are our two victim advocates, and they work hand in hand with my detective bureau. And when we have an incident of gun violence, the detectives will work with the victim advocates, and then the victim advocates will reach out to anybody that was impacted by gunfire to help them get through a lot of those sort of series of paperwork and assistance. But what we found is not a lot of people who are impacted by gunfire actually take advantage of programs that are out there because of the paperwork shuffle and the hurdles and barriers they have with reading and writing and just, staying on top of things. And so when Chief Boyson made it a priority last year to implement this victim advocate program, we have seen that they've been very successful in working with our victims. Lastly, Chief Boyson mentioned that you have to, in order to make this work, you have to have an equal balance between outreach and enforcement. And he's so right. We cannot do this work alone. I can collect the data. I have a data analyst that puts a lot of these numbers together for us. But the actual work and boots on the ground, we need partnerships. And some of those partnerships come from street outreach. You're going to hear from Gold Group 1 here in a little bit about how an individual can be a part of the boots on the ground work. But I just wanted to highlight or actually recognize some of the individuals that are doing the work, boots on the ground, working with us and doing the interventions and mediations. If you are part of the street outreach team, could you please stand up, or if you've done work with us over the last few years in implementing this, please stand up and I want you guys to do your turns. Vivi, can you come forward? Dante, can you come forward? Well, as these guys are coming forward, I want everyone to know we have gone across the nation learning and training about community violence intervention work. And really, these guys are paving the way for the work across the nation. Here's how I want to describe it. When we have a shooting incident that happens, let's just say over the weekend, how do these guys get notified? How do they get information on how to do interventions or mediations? Well, the police department has that information. But for so long and from so many different municipalities, that information that the police department has is held very close to just the police department. And over the last few years, we have been able to work with our street outreach team and share a lot of that information so they can do the exceptional work they do day in and day out, but they need some direction, where to go, who to contact. And that's how we've been able to work together. Now, it was just a few months ago, the CBI team in Detroit, they contacted us and asked to have a Zoom meeting. I didn't expect to have so many people on the Zoom meeting, but there was over 60 individuals that were on there, and they wanted to know how Kalamazoo works so closely with the CEI team, specifically the police department working with outreach. And they were just floored on how well we work together. And we work together, I don't know, I talk to you guys almost daily, but we have a set meeting that we meet once a week, but we share the last 7 days worth of incidents that happen in the street or in the schools, and then how we can effectively do those interventions we use. And so I just want you guys to hear from them on maybe their perspective on working with law enforcement. And they did a phenomenal job during that Zoom meeting, and they're still getting calls from Detroit because Little Kalamazoo is paving the way on how we're growing.
Man, he was just making it happen. We was just making it happen. Of course, it's new to us, but to say the light dudes were to stop dicking about the system that was in place that was so rigged and unfair to how things is going out. We decided to build our own system so that we can get out of and save a life and do something better for these kids. No one man is greater than his team. The whole city is the team. So with the outreach going on, the main thing we get from law enforcement is basic stuff. Even children who are joining school, we want to know those kids so we can go out and get them at school. People who get hurt on the streets, we're not detectives, we're not codies, we don't got no walk and talkie, no badge. So we out there at 2 a.m. and something going on in one of our neighborhoods, we can't go across the line and do all these crazy things, but we can get access and information from chief about what's going on to try to get in front of things to stop the retaliation happen. Because no one loses. No one wins when the Lakers lost. Everyone loses. So that's how we operate. The biggest criticism we get, our people don't understand us talk to the police because, we came up, talk to the police was a no-no. You know what I'm saying? But some people don't even know what police is. They just know it's an opposition. So it's like they saw an individual on the street in their face that they deemed as a red or blue color. They start opposition. So we understand that the police is a fraternity, a brotherhood, a group of individuals who simply are out for cushion peace. Everybody got their apples on every side of the fence. They was in my cage that sent me to prison, and here we is now taking pictures with each other. I'm pretty sure his people got something to say about that. Pretty sure they got something to say about that. And my people got something to say about that. But our main objective is to save the life. He don't need us to go out and fish and get nobody that they watch and got 100,000 people telling out anyway. We basically get together to save the life. That's super big. The other entities that's in place represent the ecosystem of support that we give for individuals. We can get a man, woman, or a child into a program, but that program won't fix them. They're not a robot, you know what I'm saying? These are the digital workers dealing with different traumas from that fast that need to be addressed, and it's gonna be up to them to walk that walk. It's up for us to give that support system, to become that vessel of support to help them heal the best we can.
Yeah, that being said, like my brother Big B said, so on Wednesdays, what we do to give y'all an insight, it's a one-way street, y'all, to let y'all know. We don't give KVPS no information at all. That's what makes it so sweet. A lot of people say, well, y'all working with the police. We don't say nothing, y'all. There's a lot of times we sit there, we know what's going on, but we still got rules and regulations that we vow by. So we don't say anything. They give us the juveniles, the adults, and just to see if we can go talk to them. So if we can't get through to them, then that's when they do their job. But a lot of times, a lot of the kids, a lot of the youth, a lot of the adults, they listen to us. Some do, some don't. We actually got one that we talked to today, you know what I'm saying? He rolling with us with Big B. I like that. So that kind of worked out. So this is the type of things that we bring into the community. And yeah, we get together Wednesdays, invite only, Chief will invite you, and we just work together. It's different place or the juvenile home. Just different entities in the room trying to work to see if we can stop this gun violence thing. So but that's what we built, CVI team.
All right, phenomenal job, guys. Again, we cannot do this work alone. We recognized that several years ago, and that's why we have our community partners walking alongside us, trying to do these interventions and mediations to keep gun violence and violence in general so low. And so, again, just a round of applause for the guys that are on the boots on the ground doing the work.
Now we have Tia Whitley, who will talk about some other goal focus areas and priorities within our Goal 1 working. So welcome, Tia.
Thank you. So, AC, Chief, did an amazing job along with Dee and Dontre talking to you about the reactive work after violence has happened in the community, how the community outreach folks, our violence interrupter, our violence interventionists come together to be able to intervene when a situation has happened. But Goal Group 1 is more than just intervention. We also do a lot of preventative work and collaboration with more than people who do outreach work in community. So that's what we're going to talk to you about today. Myself, as well as my colleague, the Pranga, that is here with me, Joel Merg from Bronson, we're gonna cover some of the other areas that Go Group One focuses on. So AC talked a lot about those Wednesday meetings, but there's another meeting that happens that not a lot of community knows about. And it's a special group that again houses some of those violence interrupters, those violence interventionists, as well as community members and other organizations that do community violence intervention. The name of that group, this collaborative group, is called CAL-SAFE. CAL stands for Kalamazoo. SAFE stands for Safe Avenues for Everyone. It's pretty the logo for it too, guys. So this group has been meeting for about 2 years now. This group came from doing the first CVI Academy, which I'll talk about in just a second, that we knew after the academy, there needed to be more, needs to stay connected. We needed to be able to work together by way of a community of practice to continue meeting, to continue learning, and continue to do this violent interruption work together where the work is not siloed. Some of the organizations that are part of CAL-SAFE are listed right here on the screen. I want to mention that there are 2 that are not on here. One is community members. We do have community members a part of CAL-SAFE that are not a part of any organization. They want to inject it back to their community. Another one that is not in here is, because I'm a butcher,
Lean on Healing of Healing on Purpose.
thank you. Good. Is another group that is also a part of CAL-SAFE as well. Now, this list is too small. Would you agree that if we're doing violence interruption and intervention, there should be a lot more organizations on this list? Oh, y'all, the teacher in me gonna come out. Let's try that. There. Thank you. Yes, there should be. And we will do, as we conclude with Global One, we will do a call to action from some of you guys that are in this room, all of you guys that are in this room on how we can grow this list. So Goal 1, here are some of our action steps for Goal Group 1. As you guys can see, it's a very comprehensive list of actions and strategies that are initiated. And then on the next slide, we'll talk about some of the ones we focused on in 2025. So we have here, these are the action steps that we worked through in 2025, increasing public access to data transparency. And then let's what program or initiative is utilized to meet this. You'll be able to find some of the data on NTC's website, where they'll do co-state. Strengthen capacity and alignment of local community violence efforts is the CVI Academy, as well as youth diversion and participatory defense. Expand support services for victims for survivors of violence through hospital community partnership. Bronson will talk a little bit about, Joe will talk a little bit about the Health Alliance Violence Intervention Program. Decrease illegal gun availability, we read MCG Day, talking about gun amnesty. And support and promote individual capacity for conflict prevention, de-escalation, as well as engage the community in gun safety, where we have gun law distribution, as well as restorative justice in schools, utilizing restorative practices. So part of Goal 1 was to look at our assets. A lot of the support, our assets, our strengths in Goal 1, you rely on organizations and the services that organizations provide. But as you can see, oh man, this is a real low number. And I believe we all can just say, we need some money. That funding and grants is low, right? But I know that's everybody's story in here, right? We have been able to have the opportunity to really work together collectively. We're talking about transformative partnerships where we have gone into grant funding opportunities together to not just support one organization, but multiple. But we want to increase opportunities for that, to be able to support this work, to keep this work going. Another one is community leaders and stakeholders. We need more. We need more community leaders that are involved within Goal 1, as well as current initiatives and programs are at 7.1, and we want to increase our capacity to have more programs to support the violence intervention. All right, so some key activities and progress that we've done. I taught you already a little bit about CalSafe. CalSafe meets bi-weekly. Now, we have some members of CalSafe that are here in the room. If you participate in CalSafe, can you please just put your hand up and got to stand up? All right, thank you. Now, that's like I know somebody just left, so 4 people, like, wow, where are they at? They working, right? They are out here working and doing violence prevention work, be they in schools and the organizations that they work for, like Urban Alliance. They are like, okay, this meeting is work. We got some representation there. All right, we gonna stay out, working and doing the frontline work. So we thank you to them for keeping the work going. We've also done some resource navigation and some gap funding. So CalSafe, AC, they talked a lot about, giving names, individuals who've been impacted by violence. And so what we do when those names come through CalSafe, we have a closed section meeting of CalSafe where we see what do they need. We do an intake process, and if there are gaps in the community where there is a lack of funding, or I'm gonna say there's too much red tape for somebody to get a need met immediately, then we provide gap funding for that. Again, that's why we need some more funding, y'all. Right, to be able to support people and remove barriers for those who are impacted or vulnerable populations with some additional access, as well as community education and events. We have put on 2, I believe, community education events in 2025. I also want to note that this past year, over 200 individuals were supported through the CalSafe Collaborative. Oh. Our baby, CBI Kazoo Academy. Now, I'm not burning y'all, my eyes are just wired. This has been a project that is in its 3rd year. Cohort 1 serviced 30 participants. In Cohort 1, it was about 36 hours of training where we had a national trainer come in, train our folks who are currently doing street outreach and violence interruption. Cohort 2, 17 individuals, the amount of mean to decrease so that the training to be more engaging, more conversation and dialogue, between the individuals. And we opened cohort 2 up to not just the outside community members training folks in Kalamazoo, because I don't know if y'all know this. This is when I'm gonna start preaching to y'all. Kalamazoo got some bad mamma jammas up in here. We got experts right here in our city to train our folks on different topics that relate to violence interruption. I want to uplift Lola because she's the first person I see. Lola was one of those individuals that trained our folks on safety plan. And when you are engaging with the individual that beat the safety plan, what do you do? What does that look like? How do you connect to the supportive resources? What we also did is outside of our community members training folks, we also looked at our Cohort 1 members and said, who in Cohort 1 can now be a trainer in Cohort 2? So we have 4 of our street outreach folks, Dache Menaville, we all call him D. He got a whole government name, but everybody call me D. Dominica Sin, as well as Alejandro Rodriguez, who we consider our CBI leads. They are the individuals that also help to train Cohort 2. So we had people that came back for Cohort 1, as well as community members come in and do some training as well. And now we are in Cohort 3. We went from 36 hours to a very robust training, CBI's Academy training that is getting ready to start March 19th. It'll be 80 hours. It will have a capstone. It's 2 days a week for 4 hours. Individuals who participate in the CBI Academy, there is an application process. They have to be referred into the academy. We try to have people that have some lived experience, the people who have been actively doing the work of violence prevention, and it may not know that's the work that they've been doing, right? And get referred into the academy. And then we have some new topics that we're also going to cover this year. Media reporting is going to be in there. Motivational interviewing is going to be there. Some CPT training is going to be there. There's a whole list of the topics, as well as how to engage with people who are the specific population, like you. Shout out to Nantre and Lolo, who's going to be heading that training up. Or our LGBTQ plus community, our unhoused community, our community of people who are affected by domestic violence or returning citizens, how to engage and work with those individuals and connect them to, immediate supports. So thus far, we have 47 total graduates of the certificate program, which is a partnership also with KBCC, Howells Valley Community College, who provides this professional certificate, as well as NTC, who also supports as well. So it is now time for the next cohort of people who will be graduate. We have 16 individuals that are going to go through cohort 3 in 2026, and we also had the graduation celebration too. So be on the lookout for an invitation to the second cohort of graduates. If you are someone that's like, man, they're interested, I want to know more information. How can I get myself into, the CBI Academy? Or I know somebody that should participate within the CBI Academy. We're going to list some contact information, or if you see me, right, we want everybody to be able to have access to this awesome program. Again, this is the proactive work. We want to make sure that the individuals who are helping in our communities, the helpers in our community, that they are prepared, they have the skills, their toolbox is filled to be able to go in the community and do the work, again, because they're saving lives. All right, Joel.
All right, good morning, everybody. I'm Joel Murr. I'm employed by Bronson. I work for the community. So I have the best job at Bronson that I get to be with you all today. Looking out with this group, I've seen so many familiar faces. That's a good thing for us. So for us, we are very grateful that we have a grant from the city of Kalamazoo that is helping bring the hobby to their area. So what's the hobby? That's the Help Alliance for Violence Intervention. The hobby is the gold standard for helping hospitals, for helping healthcare connect better to the community. If you look around this room, you see all the resources here, right? So many good organizations, so many good people to do good work. The challenge with that is how do we connect better to you folks? How do we work with a community that has so many good resources? As you look at the hobbies trying to help us too. So this is a technical assistance grant, which you have the TA grant, know what it sounds like. It sounds like the hobby say, Bronson, do you have policy on this? Bronson, do you have this procedure in place? Bronson, do you have this in place? For helping us get our fundamentals right so we can be better at this work. So really want to have a future here where we have a really effective hospital-linked violence intervention program. So that when people come into Bronson, we're able to better connect to our social work team, supposed to start doing the work externally. So we know that when people come into Bronson, Bronson is the only level 1 trauma center in Southwest Michigan. Again, remember, we are the only level 1 trauma center. That means Bronson is going to see all of the toughest cases. That's a huge duty here. So this is what the hobby is trying to help us do. Get ready to be able to make those referrals back to the folks that Tia is talking about, to the folks that Chief is talking about, so we can be a better partner through this kind of work. So again, technical assistance, not the most exciting grant to have. However, deeply important, right, to get those fundamentals right so we can do this well together. And then some America's incredible social workers are here also from Bronson. Eric, Christy, thank you for being here. If you know hospital social workers, you know how difficult it is for them to get off the floor and be out in the community. So thank you for being part of this. I appreciate that work. That social work team is the team that's making the difference there, connecting back to the community. So thank you very much for being here. I recognize Sarah McKenzie also, social worker, who's been part of this group. So this group really is working with public safety, it's working with Earth in Place, it's working with MTC, trying to make this happen. So that's the hobby work. And finally, I want to make sure that we point out trauma injury prevention votes. 800 gun locks were distributed just last year by Ronson folks. 800. These are folks throughout the community. They're folks doing this through our practices. That means there are like 800 guns locally that were not secured. So 800 people were reached with those gun locks. You know that Safe Gun Storage saves lives? You can see the t-shirts over here for folks wearing this. And that's the work we're doing. 800 gun locks distributed just last year. So huge kudos to that team for doing that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Since you brought up gun locks, there are many organizations that distribute gun locks. So I know law enforcement distributes guns. Is there any other organization here in our space today, in this space, who distributes gun locks? Please raise your hand. So we got ISK, the Health Department, the Douglas, Moms Demand Action, Anger from Place. All for Countless of Be Smart program also distributes gun locks as well as NDHHS. So there are a lot of different organizations in the community to have access to gun locks. So what we learned is seeking more collaborative effort within our CDI ecosystem, and we are missing some organizations to be involved within our CDI ecosystem. CalSafe needs more from Action 5. That means we need more community education as well as events. We can't lose momentum for continuing to strengthen relationships between CDI and healthcare as well. So we'd like you guys to see our CDI ecosystem courtesy of Nick Jr. And as you can see in the different years, because CDI keeps going and our partnerships, when we collaborate, we turn that gear together. So think of it like a bike, right? It can move unless the gears are all working together, right? So consider yourself or your organizations as part of the gears that's steering and making sure that we have momentum and that we can keep moving within the work. And so as you look up here and look at all the different elements or opportunities to engage, see yourself and where you fit within this ecosystem. If your organization does, re-entry services, it fits within the ecosystem and we would like to engage. If you provide victim services, it fits within the ecosystem and we would like for you to engage. Who does preventative youth development? Any organization with preventative youth development? I need some youth. I'm real high. Good. I sneak on it. So you do preventative youth engagement, you fit within the ecosystem, and we will love for your engagement. Who does crisis management? That's a lot of y'all know here who does crisis management. ISK, right? Fit within the ecosystem, and we would love that engagement. Okay, last and certainly not least, school-based bias prevention initiatives. Who does that? Thank you. You fit within our ecosystem and we would like for you to, engage. So there are multiple opportunities where we can increase the number of organizations that are involved within CDI as well as engaging within the CalSafe program. So looking forward to 2026, CalSafe was going to continue to do more outreach and it's also going to include community events. We're very excited to now be working on a CHW pathway that connects the CDI work to the CDI Academy. So after people are exiting the academy, it's another an educational pathway, another item for their toolbox for them to be able to continue to grow and learn. We currently have individuals, including myself, who are being trained as CHW. Now I tell you, everybody in Indian probably consider the CHW. It's the helping work, right? But then we're going to go from that to become trainers. Again, we had amazing people in our community that can do the trainings for our community. So those who are currently being CHW trained through Mishwa, we are then going to become the trainers for Southwest Michigan, because guess what? There isn't any through Mishwa for Southwest Michigan. So we can be the trainers again, as well as be able to continue to train our community people to become community health workers, which is another certificate program. Can't stress this enough, expanding the CBI ecosystem, a huge component of the 2026, as well as completing our Hy-Vee Technical Assistance Grant, which ends in September. That grant doesn't just support Hy-Vee, it has supported CalSafe, the community of practice. It has also supported our CBI Academy as well. So again, that grant ends in September, but we know it's okay because we're talking about increase in funding. So we are consistently looking for funding and opportunities to, again, continue to fund work.
Thank you, Joel and Tia. We got to do just a little bit more bragging about our street outreach workers. So in 2025, we had the opportunity through some of our funding partners to provide a CBI fellowship. And so when Tia mentioned EB, Dominica, Dontre, and Alejandro, they took in opportunities and were able to travel across the country to train with national trainers in community violence prevention. And the reason I'm saying that is because we have invested in and will continue to invest in local leadership and lifting up local leadership. So they're learning best practices, not just Kalamazoo best practice, but across the country, which has also connected them to national network of CBI interventionists across the country, and has also lifted up their leadership in the Michigan CBI space. So when Chief said that they get calls for patrol, they are now very well networked with our Michigan CBI ecosystem as well as nationally. So we have heavy hitters here is what we call them. But I just wanted to do a little bit of bragging, but also for us to really truly understand that like the work is expanding beyond Kalamazoo and is informed by best practices outside of Kalamazoo as well.
So I'd like to now invite up our Goal 2 leads. We have Lola and Jennifer and Diane. And they will talk about increasing access to building capacity